you can see my face and my screen at the same time. It's another week and it's another devlog, and this one has been recorded a little early due to New Year's and my upload schedule not like mixing all too well this year. So I'm recording this a little bit early, meaning that there is a little bit less work done this week. Also because I've just been hella busy, just like last week. Let's go over the things that I've done though, because I've done some fun things, I've done some tedious things, and I've done some nothings. I've made some plans is what I've done. So first things first, you know my 3D character, this little dude, the main character of the game. I used to have all the programming for the jumping system inside of this actual object, right? Everything would be stored in here. It would like the jumping system, everything, wall jumping, double jumping, all that type of stuff would be in here. And the further I went into designing these levels and thinking about the next couple of steps once I'm done with what I'm doing now, the more I realized that actually I probably want to have this in Java updates. Okay, nice. I probably don't want to have all this programming in the actual character because I've been struggling a little bit with a balance between something that controls well in the hallway levels and something that controls well in the 3D overworlds. The hallway levels being more like a Crash Bandicoot type of game, and the 3D overworlds being more like Mario 64 or Mario Odyssey. And finding a middle ground between that proves very, very difficult. And at some point last week or the week before, I made the realization that maybe it's not difficult. Maybe I'm just trying to do something that I shouldn't be doing. And that's trying to find a middle ground between two things that might seem related, but really are very, very different. So instead, what we're going to be doing is I've separated those controls into two separate player controllers. I already had two separate player controllers because obviously there is some gameplay differences like camera control being done automatically in the hallway levels, whereas in the 3D roam levels you can do that with your right analog stick or your mouse. So I already had two different player controllers with a slight difference in movement input for the mouse and stuff like that. So what I did is I took all this programming, I put it into two separate player controllers. So at the moment, the programming inside of these two, which is this for the jumping system and this, is identical because I haven't gotten around to actually changing it yet. I don't expect to do many big changes to the 3D hallway controls anytime soon. Eventually I'm going to have to refine things and maybe add or remove certain things, but this seems to be not final, but in a near final state as far as like mechanics go. This is going to get overhauled really, really badly over the next couple of weeks. Because this is going to, again, I'm going to introduce a double jump, maybe a triple jump. I'm thinking about just ripping the long jump as well because it's very satisfying to use, especially in wider, more open areas. I don't think I'm going to go one for one having things like a ground pound jump and things like that, like they do in Mario Odyssey. I have this fun idea for a mid-air movement cancelling move, which you can potentially string together with a mid-air dash to create a very fun and satisfying way to maneuver around in mid-air and also have it feel responsive. Because what we have right now is, and I'll just go into this overworld area right here. Like if we go into this, that's definitely the wrong viewport. If we go into this, right now we have a pretty heavy character, and that is fine, that's good. But what if we have a more floaty, a more slippery character, again, a lot like Mario, but we give him a button to do a move that cancels his horizontal momentum. So we would give him kind of like a ground pound, but it wouldn't quite be a ground pound. It would probably be exactly like a ground pound in a lot of different ways, in that we could probably use it as an attack, because that would make sense. It's a way to cancel out all of your mid-air movement instantly and just go down towards the ground. But what I'm thinking is I'll make one that you can cancel out of again with another mid-air dash. Which means that the dash mechanics in level and out of level, for level being hallway levels, are going to be different, because we're going to stick with this. You have 2 jumps or 2 jump actions, and you can do whatever they want you with them, right? You can do that. That for the hallway levels. For the 3D overworlds, I'm thinking the dash is just going to be an ability that's on a cooldown. Like, you can dash every 2.5 seconds, for instance. So what you could do is you could jump. You could do the ground pound move to cancel out your horizontal movement, and then you could fall down a little bit to the height that you want to be at, and then dash. And then do a horizontal movement cancellation again, and then dash to another direction, potentially. And I think this will be pretty satisfying if I get it right. So that's the plan I have with that, and that's like part of the reason, well, actually the whole reason that I decided to change the player controls into the player controllers, which took me about a day to do altogether. So a lot of my time this week in development has been spent porting over to this, and also making things a little bit more readable. As you can see, it's a lot more tidy in here than it was here. I figured if I'm going to like rearrange everything, and I had to go over the entire thing, because a lot of like references to variables and stuff like that had to be replaced. I had to copy over variables. Some variables needed to be cast to different objects suddenly, and it was just a bit of a pain to go through, but now everything is in a player controller. So that is very important and very, very good. Other than that, I've worked a bit on some levels. I've added some, let's see, where are the levels? You can't see that. Can you shut the fuck up, please? I'm recording a video. Computer World 1D. First and foremost, you can't see the level yet. I've added some graphics to this level. As I said, the whole theming here is going to be one-dimensional level, is going to be binary. I don't know if I've discussed this actually yet. One-dimensional levels are going to be binary. And then for the two-dimensional level, I'm going to put like a hexadecimal code on all the platforms as the texture. And then for the 3D level, it's going to be full lines of C++ code. Or C#, I don't know. Unreal works on C++, so it feels more right to do C++, but it really doesn't matter that much. It could be fucking Java, which is like what I know most about, which is to say not a lot. That's why I program in Blueprint, because I'm bad at coding. So let's just walk through this real quick, because as you can see, it is a little jittery at the moment. That is due to a variety of reasons. Number one, the lighting not being built. And number two is there's a lot of texture being loaded here at a decently high resolution. Like I only have one texture, which is 2K in dimension, 2048 by 2048. But it's not downsizing that resolution based on distance like you would have with the 3D models and stuff like that, and usually also with textures. The level of detail, Unreal takes care of that very, very nicely automatically. If something is very far away from the camera, it'll downsize them in resolution. So first thing that I changed is in this selection, there is or this section rather, there is a hitbox here which changes the inputs control rotation to always just mean that if you're pressing forward, okay, that didn't go very well. If you're pressing forward, you will go forward. It's now independent from the camera, whereas before you would just like if you press forward, you walk away from the camera, and that's largely still the case. But I manually changed that here with a hitbox, and I also added an object which is just a hitbox that does the exact same thing for side-scrolling sections. I'm doing so badly here. The exact same thing for side-scrolling sections, because in the editing level, it also became kind of an issue. I'll show you in a moment. It's really hard to show without showing like my input controls, and this is kind of really something that you need to feel. So yeah, as you can see, the puzzle, the blocks are blue. And when they get moved, they change to a red color to indicate that they have been moved. I added this same particle system that I used for the checkpoint. It's probably going to change into a different particle system at some point on the buttons, because otherwise they are fucking impossible to see. So, yeah, I'm not going to show you the solution to this puzzle. I did revamp the puzzle a little bit. I think it is a little bit better now. It's still really difficult to make a proper puzzle. I've actually not tested. You can't fit through there, but you can soft lock yourself. It's good that I have a checkpoint right before this, because you can just kill yourself, and the game doesn't have and won't have a life system, because I think life systems, I've talked about this before in some Let's Play videos, are an outdated, archaic concepts. But the reason the textures don't downsize, I should talk about, that I disabled that for this specific texture, is because the camera goes pretty far away here, and as you could already see, if I play from here, it's kind of like it's starting to turn a bit into just noise, and the further away you go, at some point it just becomes more transparency than actual texture, and I think that we don't want that. So what I did is I said, you're always just going to like render the full 2K texture no matter what, which does mean that there's a lot of 2K textures being rendered on screen at any given time, because a lot of these textures could probably be down sampled to like, I don't fucking know, like 200 by 200 instead of 2000 by 2000 at this distance. But at that point, they become pretty much invisible. So that's a problem that I might have to look into fixing at a later date. But for the time being, the way I'm doing it right now, it works. So yeah, this is the one-dimensional level. And I figured, you know what, after this puzzle, that seems like a fun final objective. So after you finish that puzzle, which isn't that difficult, I hope, you go into this section and you can just end the level and get sent back into there. So the next thing that I think I want to talk about a little bit is I have started work on the two-dimensional level, which is just a side-scrolling level. This one does not actually use the on-rail camera that I made. This one still uses the camera hitboxes, because it makes a lot more sense for this, right? So this is just your average side-scrolling 2D level. It's nothing special yet. There's definitely going to, for both levels, this level and the last one as well, we still need a lot of like background elements, because specifically for sections like that where you only have like the background being black and you're moving across it with no other point of reference, you don't know if you're moving and in what direction you're moving. So I'm going to need to like create some background elements here to show some depth and some movement, which is just as easy as putting a couple of blocks in the background. It's really not that complicated. And for this level, it's just like, it will just look nice to have some blocks with this exact same texture again, just moving around and just making things look a little bit more filled up than just a black void. But at the moment, it's just going to be a black void. These are going to be replaced by a object. It's kind of like a gate. It's just like a cube with like a little cube cut out of it. So that's why they're still white and not textured yet. The enemies are all going to be wireframes in this. So I'm going to make a wireframe version mesh of all these enemies, and just like at the start of this this level, I think I can do something as simple as going to the level blueprint and then get all actors of class, and then say, I think I call them up, down enemy, stomp enemy maybe, I don't know, stomp enemy, and then just say set mesh, something like that. You can probably just do something like that. I'll have to look into that. And I set the mesh to the wireframe version of that I still have to make of the mesh. Same thing will apply to the actual main player character, which brings me to the thing that I really wanted to talk about here, because for that I need to make a new version of the player character, because at the moment the player character's topology is kind of a fucking mess. I don't know if I can get you a view of the wireframe. 3D character, let's see. If I go to this, I can maybe say player skeletal mesh. Can I show the wireframe for this? Presumably just by brush wireframe. So yeah, where is he? There he is. It's not bad actually. I remember it being a lot worse. Specifically the hat is kind of a mess, and then down here we have some things that are separate objects, which isn't great. You can see that where are you? The legs are actually not connected to the body at all. They're floating kind of like Rayman, so that's not great. So I'm going to have to make some changes to that character, as well as the fact that a lot of this is definitely just unnecessarily high in poly count. Most of this I can probably do fairly automatically with AI stuff. I'll have to manually touch up a lot though. But that also means that I will be having to re-import all the animations and all that kind of stuff. And when we're going to do that, I don't know if I'm going to do that now or at the very, very end of this entire project. But I'm also going to have to remake those animations, because at the moment, all those animations for the player character are from Maximo, which is fine, but they're kind of very obvious stock animations, and they don't necessarily all blend together very well. Whereas if I make my own animations, I can just make sure that the pose from one animation, that's an email, the pose from one animation into the next animation is a perfect match. It'll just literally be the same pose going into the new animation. Having a lot more control over that. That being said, making character animation is very difficult compared to all the animation I've done so far. I've been looking up a lot of videos. I've been looking up a lot of reference spreadsheets for pose design and animation like that. And I actually practiced a little bit about that today in a video that I'm editing for a client, where I had to make a walk cycle for a character, and it looks kind of decent. I can't show it to you sadly because it's not my own shit, and I'm not about to show other people's videos and stuff that I'm working on, because professionalism. But it's difficult, but I'm learning. So likely I'm going to spend a lot of time over the next couple of weeks in Blender. But then again, I might leave that last step, because it's just polish, right? I might leave that step until way down the line. I'm very excited to do it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I should do it right now. And I think that is a very, very important thing to recognize. So, where does that leave us? We also have the thing that I mentioned in the... I'm sorry, I didn't take enough notes. I'm recording this very last minute, can you tell? Because I'm going to not have time to record this over the weekend, which is kind of too bad. So going into the editing level real quick here, you'll be able to see that I added a hitbox somewhere. Yeah, this very long hitbox here. This sets the control direction to just always be left to right and ignore the camera control direction. So what this does is right now, my controls are very much dependent on where the camera is. And the moment I enter this hitbox, that will no longer be the case. It'll be clean left to right and away and towards the camera. That's mainly because I'm sorry, things are a little bit laggy at the moment. My PC's been having some troubles lately. I don't know why. But no matter what direction the camera faces in, I can just hold down this button and walk to the right. And I think that is a very, very important thing. It does also just make me consider something that I have been told a couple of times by someone that's been both playtesting and just like bouncing ideas back and forth with about this game. And that is maybe the control direction should only change when you let go of the button. That being said, that is a very button-based way of doing things, because I am assuming most people are going to play with one of these. A controller or a 360 controller. I've got some close by, or fucking maybe even a Steam pad or a Steam controller, whatever they're called. And the thing with that is that with an analog stick, there is a really good chance that you'll actually never let go of the button, or the stick rather, which kind of throws that whole idea out the window. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do there yet. I'm as of yet undecided, but it is a consideration that I have, and for the time being, something similar that I'm doing is just brute forcing it during certain sections, just saying, fuck the camera, we're just having our control rotation based on that's not where I want to be. Our control rotation is based on something that I manually put in, which in this case, in a left to right section, just means that, or a side-scrolling section just means that it's left to right, which is control direction just of minus 90 degrees. So usually that would be a really tough jump to make, especially this one as well, because the camera changes mid-jump, which can just throw you over the lot. But that is not the case anymore, because again, it's literally just left to right, and all the camera movements suddenly change from being obnoxious and unfair to being fancy and fun. So that is a thing that I've also added. It's not that big a deal, and again, the game is very laggy today. My PC has been very laggy today. I don't exactly know why that is. It's a good excuse to buy a new PC. Just kidding. I just upgraded my GPU like a couple of months ago. And I think that's all we have for this week. So over the next week, have I shown the 2D level off yet? I think I have. If not, we'll show it off right now and just talk a little bit through what we're doing over the next week. So over the next week, I will be playing around more with this level. This is a very, very early, just rough, just place some blocks down and place some hazards down. Try to think of how those hazards relate to each other and how they progress in difficulty. So you have those first two platforms that you can jump over. Those are going to also have some wisps on them, so some collectibles. And this is kind of like a upgraded version of that, where instead of jumping over the platforms with the enemies as a very, very minor danger. Also, I have not added a kill zone yet, clearly. You have a bottomless pit as a danger point. And then from there, we go into some more platforms on track being difficult. So if you make it through this little bit over here, which takes a while because things are just not timed very well yet. So if you make it through this little bit over here, which is going to be easier once you have an idea of perspective. You get hair in my mouth. You get taken up a level, and again, this is not particularly the difficult part. And at the moment, this does not work how I want it to work yet. Is the thing. I'll just show you because playing through it every single time is going to be tedious. So you go through here, and then you jump onto a platform, and you get a little section. I've been speedrunning Mario 64, and I got inspired by, I think it's in Bowser 2, might be Bowser 3, I always mix them up. The levels, the actual boss fights are very different. You have to jump over this, then make sure you land on the platform to go under this, because you're not going to be able to make it over this, and then same here. You have to then make it over very, very quickly. At the moment, this is just a platform going back and forth. I'm going to change this into a platform that just starts moving the moment you land on it. And then after a couple of seconds of just being at the end here, we'll just go backwards. At the moment, it does not do that yet. Then you get a little thing that just like snakes its way up here. The level progression goes this way. You jump from this one to this one. Then you have some platforms that flip around sequentially. This is going to need to be more difficult than this right now. And this is going to be for an extra collectible. If you want to get all the collectibles, you need to go over here, then go back and make your way through the level. I'm going to need to build in a couple more of those little like secret areas as we go along. But that's the main like backbone of this level. It's definitely going to have to be at least like 3 times bigger than it is right now. But it's a start. So I'm going to be working a little bit more on this. I'm probably, if I can't help myself, I'll start working a bit more in Blender. I might give a little bit more attention to my side project as well, because I think I now know how to fix some of the issues that I've been having with that. It's been like 3 weeks since I've actually had that project open, but I think I have some ideas for that. So it's going to be an exciting week. It's going to be a very, very hellishly difficult few weeks, probably, because I have a lot of things to do and I can't decide what to do first. And as a result, I end up not doing a lot instead of just starting and seeing where it gets me. So, yeah. I probably should also start learning to like plot out my levels before I start building them. But having this like 3-dimensional plane to just play around with and add things and remove things. I mean, this is the version of the level that you're seeing now. I'm probably going to remove some of these elements between this week and even next week. And there's been a lot of like platforms that I've placed and just removed again before you saw me go through it today. So, and then we have the full hallway level, and that'll be a complete world, at least as far as I think it'll be right now. There is the issue of maybe 3 levels in a world is not enough, in which case I'll make a second 2D level and 3 total hallway levels, meaning that we'll get 6 levels in this world, which is a little bit more on par with all the other worlds that I have in mind right now. And then I'm probably at some point also going to start on the collectible like currency system and the upgrade system that goes with that, as well as the quote-unquote morality system that goes into that, because those are some fairly important mechanics. But for those to be relevant, there need to be a few levels first, and I think we have the test level now, which is not really a level. I'm going to make this entire world. I'm going to make a tutorial level. I'm going to implement some of those mechanics, and then I think it'll probably be March by that point, to be honest. Then I think it's time for a second beta build for some people. So keep up to date. I've been talking for well over half an hour again. I have not planned this video out very well. This could have all been said in 15 fucking minutes.